The workbench is a mess. This lower unit right here is the parking brake. And these are the parking brake discs. Or I should say parking brake friction plates. That bearing feels pretty good. My concern initially before I had taken this apart was that this bearing was the actual reason why the seal underneath was damaged. But overall, this is spinning nicely. I don't feel any movement or play, so we'll go ahead and take it apart and see what we have. All right, we have the bearing and shaft housing left to do. We need to press out the shaft without screwing up the bearings. Unfortunately, we have to do this to access the seal that's at the end that is leaking. So we'll see how this goes. And there it is. Well, that's not a great sign. But we'll take a closer look. All right. Okay. So, as you can see right here, what we're dealing with is there is a oil seal that's been driven in. You can kind of see the spring right in there. So and situation of this feels pretty good. It's got some pretty bad crap on it, but it's good. Unfortunately, here, what I'm a little bit concerned about is if you look at this seal surface, got some grooves going on. Right there. So we're going to clean that up a little better, take a closer look. We also have a screw at the bottom of this, an Allen bolt with some type of filter on the end of it. So I'm curious on what we're dealing with there, so we need to get that out. And we'll get the new seal out and we'll make an assessment of what we want to do here. Alright, that was ugly. Unfortunately, my Allen socket is missing, so I may do with one of these and a Jorgensen wood clamp. There we go. Looks like this. Does have a little bit of crap on it. We're going to have to clean it off, see if we can clean it off with oil. Otherwise, I might get a new one because it does look like it is starting to kind of collapse. It has rubber in it. Pretty sure I know what that was from. Probably our seal. What's up, dude?
Mom said that this fall we might get a dog.
What?
Yeah. and he told me to go ask you if you want a dog or not.
I don't know.
So to you.
All right, we've come to a fork in the road with our drive unit repair / rebuild, depending on how we which direction we want to go. So this is a bearing assembly, and right here is the groove for the seal. Now, typically, a groove is not good, and it doesn't necessarily look like that groove was factory put in there. But at the same time, we don't necessarily know, because sometimes there can be grooves to kind of set the groove. But anyway, so here's our fork in the road. This unit is anywhere from $600 to $800. Depending on where I source it from. That's a fair amount of money. If we had to, we could do it. I'm also sort of, like I ran into this earlier with the cooling fan motor, which is hydraulically driven, and I had the same issue. What I ended up doing is I replaced the seal and said, all right, let's see what happens. And so far, so good. We haven't had any leaks out of the cooling fan. So I'm inclined to do the same with this setup. My hesitation initially was that the seal kit for one side is $334 or $350 from John Deere. So if I install a new seal, install the used part, and it turns out this groove is going to chew up the new seal pretty quickly, or there's not enough tension and the seal ends up, we end up still having a leak, then am I forced to go buy another seal kit and replace this, which means, essentially $1,000 plus the work that I've gone forward with this. If I were doing this if I for whatever reason was doing this professionally, I would probably no doubt replace this unit, because then that way I sleep well at night, and knowing that the customer, won't have any issues. However, with me, I'm trying to get out of this. I'm trying to save as much money as I can. I only put 30 to, maybe 50 hours. Last year I put 36 hours on this, and I felt like I used it quite a bit, especially for snow removal. So I'm kind of willing to gamble on this. Furthermore, what I ended up doing was when I drove out this old seal, there's numbers on the back. I documented that with some photos, and I actually went downstairs and I sourced this seal with shipping for about $18. So with that said, I feel confident that if I put this back together with the old part, which the bearings are very nice, there's no play, they feel very smooth. It's just a seal surface groove. We'll put it back together with the new seal and we'll see what we have. If it turns out it ends up leaking or, it's not acceptable, I can at a later time order this part, have it ready along with a new seal, and pull this back apart and redo it. So because this is my personal skid loader, and I'm not so worried about downtime, and I kind of know what's going on now, we're going to go ahead and take our chances. Now, for the third question mark is we don't really know a whole lot of history on this skid loader other than that it was used for snow removal at a boat dealer. And they had purchased it brand new. They traded it in on a brand new skid loader at a Kubota dealership. So it wasn't like this, bounced around the auctions or, even was used on a farm, which that doesn't always necessarily mean anything. But when I did get it back, this drive unit is clearly not the factory. It's not yellow. It has, it's a Danfoss drive unit. It has the numbers here. So basically my conclusion is this was either rebuilt, replaced. We don't know if it was, maybe it was a warranty job very early on in its life. Maybe it's, I don't know. With the skid loader having about 8,600 hours, anything is possible at this point. So the question mark right now would be there is absolutely no drive issues that I've been able to detect other than the leaking oil. So I could take this further apart, replace the seals, inspect it, or I could leave it alone. The benefit with leaving it alone is that there's potentially less risk with this repair. I'm going to think about it for a little bit. So we'll leave it at that. But in the meantime, let's get this back together so we can get the new seal in. We need to get this gasket off. This is glued on, it feels like. Get it cleaned up and then get the seal back on, and then we'll install the shaft. All right, we have our mounting surface all clean. Save you guys the boredom of watching that. That took about 30 minutes to scrape that off and then buzz this surface clean. So should be good to go now. On this side, we're going to flip it over. We're going to put our blocks back down. And we have the inside now. So we're going to work on getting this all cleaned up. because we do not want to contaminate, and we will go from there. All right, we are ready now to install the shaft, and we have our new seal installed in this brake housing. One of the issues I have run into with this is that we can only press on this outer race because the bearing is right here, and this is a bearing surface. So if we press here, this will put pressure on the bearing pieces, which will certainly wreck them. And this is serviced as an entire assembly, which means then we're looking at the $600 to $800. So my personal dilemma was finding a material that I could put around and use this very small thickness of material to press against. And I was about to call it quits, make measurements, and go find something to purchase when I found a damaged hole saw, which, has some teeth here. And we can fit that perfectly. And a little bit movement side to side, but this is going to put all the pressure on the outer race. So we're going to give it a try. Hopefully we don't have to put too much pressure on this going in. My other issue here is having the seal go in, slip down into the oil seal. Normally I don't enjoy installing it this way, but I have no choice. Okay, we are moving in. Okay, and I'm still able to turn the shaft here, which will hopefully aid us when we are going into the oil seal. Come on. All right, we are now installed, and it looks like the shaft went through the seal nicely, and everything's turning. So, yeah, I think we're set to go on this part. All right, so what I have just discovered here is when I was disassembling this brake housing, this notch right here, which looks like maybe is some type of oil channel drain back. What I had done was I had marked on the housing here a blue line in chalk to indicate where that came out of. Now, this is where the benefit of having a factory manual, because searching through that manual, they talk about the torque specs for reinstalling this, but they also make note that this notch in this retainer plate needs to be lined up with the top hole in the housing. Now that makes sense because this top hole is supposed to be a drain back valve for this drive unit. So at some point, this was a reman unit, obviously, or was my own assumption. If that notch was not lined up, there's a good chance then, the drain back valve wasn't receiving the amount of oil that it should have. So that possibly could have been a contributing failure to the failure of this. I don't know, but we're going to do it the way the manual says, not the way we took it apart. All right, minimum thickness on the brake discs is 1.6 millimeters, and we're at 1.75. So far, so good. We are back at our drive unit for our 2010 John Deere skid steer. And I'm at the point now where we have done everything that we could with the brake housing. And now I need to make a decision on what we're going to do with the hydrostatic drive unit. I have decided that I am not going to do anything with it. All the drive functions of the skid steer actually worked quite nicely. Worked cold, it worked hot, and at this point, I don't see a whole lot of benefit of tearing this apart right now and potentially introducing debris or garbage or, spending another week tearing it apart just to replace seals. After reading the manual, really what this thing is mostly hardware.
Our next video will be coming out is part 3 of our skid steer drive motor repair, where we install this drive motor into the skid steer and see if our work actually works.